to the Daily Bite. I'm your host, Pastor Steve Andrews. Today we finish learning about the allotment of the land to the 12 tribes of Israel in the Promised Land in Joshua chapter 19. The second lot came out for Simeon, for the tribe of the people of Simeon according to their clans, and their inheritance was in the midst of the inheritance of the people of Judah. And they had for their inheritance Beersheba, Sheba, Moladah, Hazar-Shual, Bela, Etzim, El-Talad, Bethel, Hormah, Ziklag, Beth-Markaboth, Hazar-Susa, Beth-Lebaoth, and Sharhuan, 13 cities with their villages. Ain, Rimmon, Ether, and Ashan, 4 cities with their villages, together with all the villages around these cities as far as Baalath-Beer, Ramah of the Negev. This was the inheritance of the tribe of the people of Simeon according to their clans. The inheritance of the people of Simeon formed part of the territory of the people of Judah. Because the portion of the people of Judah was too large for them, the people of Simeon obtained an inheritance in the midst of their inheritance. The third lot came up for the people of Zebulun according to their clans, and the territory of their inheritance reached as far as Sarid. Then their boundary goes up westward and on to Mariel, and touches Dabbethsheth, then the brook that is east of Jokneam. From Sarid it goes in the other direction eastward toward the sunrise to the boundary of Kisloth-Tabor. From there it goes to Daberath, then up to Japhia. From there it passes along on the east toward the sunrise to Gath-Hefer, to Eth-Kazin, and going on to Rimmon and bends toward Neah. Then on the boundary north turns about to Hanathon, and it ends the valley of Iftahel. And Katath, Nahalal, Shimron, Idalah, and Bethlehem, 12 cities with their villages. This is the inheritance of the people of Zebulun according to their clans, these cities with their villages. The fourth lot came out for Issachar, for the people of Issachar according to their clans. Their territory included Jezreel, Kesuloth, Shunem, Hapharaim, Cheyenne, Anaharath, Rabbith, Kishion, Ebez, Remeth, En-Ganim, En-Haddah, Beth-Pazez. The boundary also touches Tabor, Shah-Hazumah, and Beth-Shemesh, and its boundary ends at the Jordan, 16 cities with their villages. This is the inheritance of the tribe of the people of Issachar according to their clans, the cities with their villages. The fifth lot came out for the tribe of the people of Asher according to their clans. Their territory included Helkath, Hali, Beton, Akshaph, Alamelech, Amad, and Mashal. On the west it touches Carmel and Shihor-Libnath. Then it turns eastward, it goes to Beth-Dagon and touches Zebulun in the valley of Iftahel, northward to Beth-Emek and Nael. Then it continues in the north to Kabul, Ebron, Rehob, Hammon, Kanah, as far as Sidon the Great. Then the boundary turns to Ramah, reaching to the fortified city of Tyre. Then the boundary turns to Hosah, and it ends at the sea. Mahalab, Akzib, Umah, Aphek, and Rehob, 22 cities with their villages. This is the inheritance of the tribe of the people of Asher according to their clans, these cities with their villages. The sixth lot came out for the people of Naphtali, according to their clans, and their boundary ran from Heleph, from the oak in Zananim, and Adami-Nekeb and Jabneel, as far as Lacham, and it ended at the Jordan. Then the boundary turns westward to Aznoth-Tabor, and goes from there to Hukok, touching Zebulun at the south, and Asher on the west, and Judah on the east at the Jordan. The fortified cities are Zadim, Zer, Hamath, Rakkath, Kinnereth, Adamah, Ramah, Hazor, Kadesh, Edrei, En-Hazor, Uran, Migdal-El, Horem, Beth-Anath, and Beth-Shemesh, 19 cities with their villages. This is the inheritance of the tribe of the people of Naphtali according to their clans, the cities with their villages. The seventh lot came out for the tribe of the people of Dan according to their clans, and the territory of its inheritance included Zorah, Eshtaol, Irshemeth, Shalabin, Aijalon, Ithla, Elon, Timnah, Ekron, Eltekeh, Kibbathon, Baalath, Jehud, Benabarak, Gathramon, and Mejakarn, and Rakan, with the territory over against Joppa. When the territory of the people of Dan was lost to them, the people of Dan went up and fought against Leshem. And after capturing it and striking it with the sword, they took possession of it and settled in it, calling Leshem Dan, after the name of Dan, their ancestor. This is the inheritance of the tribe of the people of Dan according to their clans, these cities with their villages. When they had finished distributing the several territories of the land as inheritances, the people of Israel gave an inheritance among them to Joshua the son of Nun. By command of Yahweh they gave him the city that he asked, Timnath-serah in the hill country of Ephraim, and he rebuilt the city and settled in it. These are the inheritances that Eleazar the priest and Joshua the son of Nun, and the heads of fathers' houses of the tribes of the people of Israel, distributed by lot at Shiloh before Yahweh, at the entrance of the tent of meeting. So they finished dividing the land. This is the word of the Lord. So, as I said, we are finishing today the allotment of the various tribes of Israel. We have already seen several of them over the last few chapters. We started with Caleb, then we went to Judah, to Ephraim and Manasseh, and then we had Benjamin. So in chapter 18 we had Benjamin, but we also had the idea that for the 7 remaining tribes, they were to send these men to search out the land that was left, to draw up the boundaries, basically, cartography here, make the map, and divide it into 7 portions as they saw fit to divide it. And then that when they brought that plan back to Joshua, he would cast lots for them before the Lord, so the Lord would be choosing which of these chunks of land each of these tribes would inherit. And that's what we see then for Numbers 2 through 7, because Benjamin had the first lot yesterday in chapter 18. Probably the best way to do this again as a family is to encourage family conversation would be to see if your children recognize the names of any places. And if they do, talk about those. Connect to those other stories in Scripture. So I'll try to do that for you with some of the more common ones as we move our way through the text. I do want to note, with Simeon here to start, as the second lot falls to Simeon, I'm going to point you to Genesis chapter 49, verses 5 through 7, as Jacob is blessing his sons and giving them basically what their offspring are going to become. He says in chapter 49, verse 7, I will divide them in Jacob and scatter them in Israel, in reference to his sons Simeon and Levi. Levi clearly divided, right, in the land of the promise, because they aren't given specific land of their own. The priests will dwell throughout the land and they will serve the people. They are receiving Yahweh as their inheritance specifically. Now Simeon will also in this way be, in a sense, divided in the land of Israel, because Simeon will receive really what is part of another tribe's possession, right? We learn at the end of this paragraph, this first paragraph, that Judah was not large enough to possess the whole land, so some of it was given to Simeon instead. So as you look at your map in your study Bible on page 365 of the Lutheran Study Bible, or by searching the internet for Old Testament map, 12 tribes of Israel, you'll notice that Simeon is really at the bottom of that map. It does look like it's kind of in the middle of Judah in the Study Bible's map, so it's going to be west of the Salt Sea on the southern half of the sea. That's our picture here. Beersheba is a recognizable name for many people as we think of this tribe. It's named after, well, its name means well of the oath, because at this well that was there, Abraham and a foreigner named Abimelech made a covenant with each other, a treaty of peace, as they had been fighting over wells in the land. This is also going to be what becomes known as perhaps the southernmost city in the land of Israel, as you will have something like Judges chapter 20, verse 1, where it says, from Dan to Beersheba. So all of Israel gathers together from Dan to Beersheba, or all of Israel hears about it from Dan to Beersheba. Beersheba being the southernmost, Dan being the northernmost, and we do have Dan mentioned in verse, I guess that's 47 today as well. So the southernmost and northernmost cities are mentioned to us. Then you have Ziklag as another noteworthy name in Simeon. 1 Samuel chapter 27 and also 30. This is a place where David's going to do battle. It's a place where he's also going to seek rest and shelter from Saul, while King Saul is still seeking to kill him. This is, I believe, where David hears news of Saul's death, is at Ziklag. And many of his mighty men came to join him in his time at Ziklag as well. So, why does Judah have part of its land taken and given to Simeon? The reason given in the text is that the people of Judah, well, the portion given to them was too large for them. That most likely would refer to faithlessness on their behalf, right? That they either have been faithless, and so the Lord has closed some of their wombs so that they have not reproduced as many children as they could have, or it's not faithlessness, and it just happens to be the matter-of-fact way things were at the time, that they just did not number enough people to see that whole land well. The third lot goes to Zebulun, and we're not going to learn a lot about Zebulun in the scriptures. He's one of the lesser brothers in terms of what we learn. So his territory is going to be up at the northern part. It's going to be west of the Sea of Kinnereth, kind of right in the middle of that area. And it's only about as tall as the Sea of Kinnereth as well. So that gives you, or Sea of Galilee, if you're looking at a New Testament map, or a modern map, that's where this tribe will fall. Now, the only noteworthy name I think most would recognize in their families for the cities of Zebulun would be Bethlehem. This is not the Bethlehem that Jesus is going to be born in, right? That Bethlehem is much further to the south, and it's located in Judah, Bethlehem of Judah, where King David is from. So Bethlehem means house of bread, so you have more than one city named House of Bread here. However, the people of Zebulun are going to be some of the first ones to hear the gospel, and you can read about that Isaiah chapter 9 verse 1 or Matthew chapter 4 verse 12 through 16. Zebulun and Naphtali, specifically those two tribes being mentioned. Then you come to the fourth tribe, Issachar. Now Issachar, again looking at the map, is going to be just to the south and southeast of Zebulun, with a part of it bordering on the Jordan River, and the rest of it being bordered by really Manasseh on the south. I guess there is a part of it bordered by Naphtali on the northeast, as I look at my map here. So Issachar, most notable city for them is going to be Jezreel. Jezreel is where King David will do some battle with the Philistines. It is where Naboth's vineyard, that account happens, where Naboth is asked by the king for his vineyard, and he says no, it's part of his family's inheritance. He won't give it up. So the queen has him killed so that she can give that land as a gift to her husband. Fifth, you have the inheritance of Asher. There are really not as many or any noteworthy names of cities that your family might recognize. Now, if you do, great. Have the conversation, but nothing jumped out at me there. The sixth lot goes to Naphtali. The major note on Naphtali is going to be in verse 35, Kinnereth. That's the city by which the Sea of Kinnereth is named after, right? So there's some prominence there as you're talking about Naphtali being up by the Sea of Kinnereth, immediately on its west, and stretching off to the north as well. Again, Zebulun is in the middle and between the Sea of Kinnereth and the Mediterranean Sea. I didn't mention Asher. Asher is west of Zebulun against the Mediterranean Sea, and like Naphtali, they both stretch northward to looks like it's called the Litani River. That sea is later renamed the Sea of Galilee because the region that we're talking about, where Naphtali, Zebulun, and Asher are, maybe even Issachar, would be considered Galilee in the future. You will notice that Luke one time refers to it as the Lake of Gennesaret, and Gennesaret and Kinnereth are a reference to the same place, just a change, a shift subtly in language that sounds a little different. Then you get the last allotment falling to the people of Dan. Now, as we look at Dan's list, Ekron makes the list. That's one of those cities of the Philistines that we've seen mentioned in the book. Dan is going to be north of Judah. It's going to border the Mediterranean Sea on the west, and it's going to be bordered by both Ephraim and the Kana River on the north, and Benjamin on the east. So it's on the lower side of the the land. But as we see in the text, they don't get it. Right? 47, when the territory of the people of Dan was lost to them, they don't keep this land long. And the reason for that's going to be idolatry. Some of that can be read about in Judges chapter 18. So instead, the people of Dan, they move northward, and not just minorly. They don't go to Manasseh, which has a lot of land there in the middle. They go all the way up, clear to the northern part of Naphtali, north of the Sea of Kinnereth, and they find a city there, and they conquer it, a city called Leshem at the time, and they rename Leshem Dan, after their tribal ancestor. And this becomes the northernmost city in the land of Israel, as Beersheba, as we mentioned earlier, the southernmost. Dan is going to be one of the two sites that will in the future be home to a golden calf for Israel's worship. When Rehoboam, the grandson of King David, just a couple months into his reign, Rehoboam gives a foolish answer to the request of his servants, as they asked for a lighter load than his father Solomon had given. And at this terrible response, the kingdom is split in two, and most of the kingdom goes with a new king by the name of Jeroboam off to the north. They keep the name Israel, whereas Judah, Simeon, and part of Benjamin remain Judah at that point. It becomes their kingdom name, and Rehoboam as their king. Noteworthily here, Jerusalem, where the temple will be at that time, is going to be located on the northern border of Judah. And so this new Israelite king, Jeroboam, doesn't want his people crossing the border between two nations to go to worship. He fears that they may not come back. And so that's 1 Kings chapter 11, 12, that range. You can read about how Jeroboam then builds two golden calves and places them for worship in the cities of Dan to the north and Bethel to the south of this new kingdom of Israel in order for his people to worship there instead. And so pagan idolatry is a major problem. And the people of Dan, they're swept up in it here right from the get-go. And then even their one city that they end up with, it becomes the major site of cultic worship for that false northern kingdom of Israel. So lots of trouble there. We wrap up by seeing that the Lord instructs the people, verse 50, that they give to Joshua a city, just as it started with Caleb, the other faithful of the two faithful spies from Numbers chapter 13. Caleb gets the first one, Joshua gets the last one. They both get a city. Caleb gets Hebron, Joshua gets Timnath-Serah in the land of Ephraim. So that's kind of fairly central in the land of Israel. He rebuilds it and lives in it. So then we have verse 51 summarizing here for us chapters 18 and 19, that this is the work that Eleazar and Joshua have done, as well as the fathers of these different tribes. They cast lots before Yahweh at the tent of meeting. The land has been divided, finished. And this might be a chance to talk about just a question that we really can't answer, but maybe fun to think about. What do you think it's going to be like in paradise, which is our promised land? How will the Lord divide up the land for us? And I really don't have an answer. I know the old King James Version used to say that Jesus was preparing many mansions, that there were many mansions in his Father's kingdom. I think the ESV text there instead says there are many rooms. So will we be living, I have no idea, spread out on top of each other in terms of like communal living in apartments, or I don't know. But it might be interesting to discuss how the Lord might divide his new creation and how you think he might do that. But then just at the end, be thankful that we get to be in that new creation, and be thankful that the Lord is our Lord and that he will care for us, even if it's not how we think it will be. This is good. Amen.